Suit up, all you mentees, and get ready to talk about 3 brand new Marvel Omnis coming out in May and July of 2026. So let's go ahead and get started. This video is sponsored by Marvel Comics, so thank you so much to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us advance notice of these 3 Omnis coming out in 2026. Alright, we don't have any time to waste. We got 3 books to talk about, and that thumbnail was a bit big of a big hint. You know, it was not talk to the hand. It was more of like a Iron Man type of repulsor ray type of hint. But maybe some of y'all got that, some didn't. But what era of Iron Man am I talking about? Well, here we go. And I'm so happy to get to announce it because a lot of you were wondering, are we going to get any more of the Golden Avenger, the classic stuff, in omnibus format? Yes, you are. Because coming in May of 2026 is the Invincible Iron Man Omnibus Volume 4. That's right, the 4th volume of the Invincible Iron Man. You all did it. So let's look at our standard edition cover. And your standard edition cover is supplied by Al Milgrom. And this is the cover that's going to be available everywhere. That cover is killer, man. That is an awesome cover. All right, let's take a look at what's going to be collected in here. So collected in here is Iron Man 68 to 112, as well as annuals 3 and 4. So we are looking at the Mike Friedrich era of Iron Man, the George Tuska era of Iron Man, but not just them. There's also the Len Wein era. There's stories in here from Bill Mantlo, Archie Goodwin, Herb Trimpe, and Steve Gerber, Roger Stern, our pal Sal Buscema, and Bill Mantlo and Jerry Conway, just to name a few of the creators. Of course, Carmine Infantino and Keith Pollard towards the end of this particular collection. So let's look at our direct market cover. The direct market cover is supplied by Jack the King Kirby, and also a stellar cover. So during this era of Iron Man, you're going to have Tony Stark traveling to California, but you're going to see villains in here like the Black Llama, characters like the Mad Thinker, the Mandarin, of course, and also characters like Ultimo and the Yellow Claw, as well as the Guardsman. And one of the Guardsmen is blaming Iron Man for the death of his brother, which starts this whole new storyline. The Red Ghost fights Iron Man through here. And then, of course, you get Happy Hogan and a couple of other characters that will make up his supporting cast. And one of the characters in here that's going to start playing a role in Iron Man's story is none other than the Jack of Hearts. There's also the Madame Mask storyline in here. But those are the issues collected in this omnibus, and that is your very first announcement. Now let's jump to July. So this one is a lot different because we're looking at, well, a really modern series here. It's an omnibus of different stories and different series, and one is as modern as 2024 in here. It is a Max series, so it's got the mature content, if you will. So what am I talking about? I am talking about Punisher and Fury Max by Garth Ennis Omnibus. People voted for this one in our top 60 most wanted Marvel Omnis, and it is the material that has not been collected previously before in the Punisher Max Omnis. So let's take a look at our standard edition cover. And our standard edition cover is supplied by Dave Johnson. And this is the cover that's going to be available everywhere. So collected in here is Punisher the Platoon 1 through 6, Fury Max 1 through 13, Get Fury 1 through 6, and Punisher Soviet 1 through 6. So in here, you do have the writings of course, Garth Ennis, and most of the time he's working with either Jason Burrows or Goran Parlov, and of course Dave Johnson supplying the artwork for the covers. And these came out at different times, some of them in 2024, some of them in 2012, and then of course 2017 and 2019 for some of the series in here. And none of these have been collected in an Omni format before. So let's take a look at our direct market cover. And our direct market cover is supplied by Jason Burrows. And this is the one that's only going to be available through your local comic book store or places online that you can get the direct market cover from. So this is all set in the past, in Nick Fury's past and also Frank Castle's past. And perhaps their paths are about to cross in some of the miniseries in here. But I will let you find out exactly what the stories are. And again, it is part of the Max line. So glad to see that come back, and so glad to see it wrap up too, because yeah, I was wondering if they were ever going to collect any of the stuff that they had done in the past. All right, we got one other book that is so different than the Max line or different than the Iron Man book, but it is the follow-up volume to a book that came out this year, and it was such a joy to have in 2025. And it wraps up this era, so now I'm wondering where they're going to go from here. But coming in July of 2026 is Daredevil by Nocenti and Romita Jr. Omnibus Volume 2. That's right, for the people that have been asking, like, this is the first time I've read Daredevil by Nocenti. When's the second volume coming out? It is coming out in July of 2026. So first, let's look at our standard edition cover. Your standard edition cover is supplied by John Romita Jr., who of course did a lot of the artwork in here for the Daredevil stories. Now, what is going to be collected in this omnibus? Because I said this would be wrapping up her era. Daredevil 267 to 291, Daredevil Annual 5 and 6, Spectacular Spider-Man 213 to 214, material from Marvel Comics Presents 109 to 116, 123 to 130, 150 to 151, and then Marvel Holiday Special number 2. So in here you are going to get the rest of Ann Nocenti's stories. She is joined by not just John Romita Jr., but also Mark Bagley joining her, Lee Weeks, Rick Leonardi doing some of the fill-in art in here, and a bunch of other creators too. So this lines up perfectly with the next book would be the D.G. Chichester era of Daredevil. But let's go ahead and look at that direct market cover. And your direct market cover is supplied by Mark Bagley, who I just mentioned was one of the artists on the book, along with all those other artists. So in here, you're going to see the return of Bullet and Shotgun and a fight against Ultron during the Acts of Vengeance storyline. You're going to see her fight the Freedom Fighters, and the Freedom Fighters at this time were, of course, the Blob, Pyro, not the Freedom Fighters, I'm sorry, Freedom Force. Freedom Force are, of course, Pyro, Blob, and Spiral during this time. So at one time, they were the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. And it gets really interesting where he goes, because there's a big, long story arc in here with Blackheart and A Trip to Hell, and it gets really philosophical and deep, so prepare yourself. I do love the way John Romita Jr. draws that big bulky Ultron too, but yes, finally coming out in omnibus format, wrapping up that era. So those were your 3 announcements for this round. Don't forget to pre-order as soon as pre-orders are available. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of the content, the covers, of the actual announcements, and what other era of Daredevil would you like to see collected, or for that matter, what other era of Iron Man would you like to see collected, or Punisher. But that's it, everybody. Stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.